The apartment above me was supposed to be empty. That's what the landlord told me the day I moved in. Nobody had lived there for years. But every single night, I heard footsteps directly above my bed. Heavy footsteps, like someone walking in circles for hours. And eventually, those footsteps started following me through the apartment. I moved into the apartment in late October. It wasn't really my choice. My uncle had died a few months earlier, and since nobody else in the family wanted the place, I took it. The building was old, not abandoned, just old enough to feel wrong. Long hallways, buzzing lights, water stains on the ceiling. The kind of apartment building where every sound travels through the walls. The first night felt strange immediately. Not scary, just uncomfortable. Like walking into a room after an argument. You don't know what happened there, but you can still feel it. I remember sitting in the kitchen, unpacking boxes around midnight. Everything was quiet. Then I heard something above me. A slow creak, then another one, like somebody shifting their weight across old wooden floors. At first I ignored it. Old buildings make noise. Pipes expand. Floors settle. Wood contracts at night. That's what I told myself. But around 1 a.m., the sounds became footsteps. Clear footsteps. Too deliberate to be pipes. Too heavy to be random noise. The next morning, I asked the landlord about it. He looked confused immediately. Then he said something that made my stomach drop. "There's nobody living above you." I thought he meant the tenant was away, but he shook his head. The apartment upstairs had been empty for almost 8 years. No furniture, no electricity, nothing. That didn't make sense, because I heard footsteps for almost 3 hours straight. I even heard something heavy drag across the floor once. The landlord just shrugged. Then he laughed a little. "Old buildings," he said, but he didn't sound convinced himself. The second night was worse. The footsteps started earlier, around 11 p.m. This time they moved slower, almost carefully. Back and forth, always above me, no matter what room I walked into. That's when I started getting nervous, because the apartment upstairs had the exact same layout as mine, meaning whoever was walking up there was standing in the same rooms I was, above my kitchen, above my bathroom, above my bedroom, like they were mirroring me from upstairs. Around 2 in the morning, everything suddenly stopped. No footsteps, no creaking, nothing. The silence felt worse somehow. I was just about to go to sleep when I heard one final sound, a knock, directly above my bed, then another one, then scratching, like fingernails dragging across the floorboards above me, and then something started crawling across the ceiling upstairs. Not walking, crawling. The sound was completely different from the footsteps, slower, uneven, like something dragging itself across the floor with its arms. I sat frozen in bed listening to it move above me. Every few seconds, it would stop. Then I'd hear a soft scratching sound, like fingernails pressing into the floorboards. Then it would continue crawling again. I didn't sleep at all that night. I just stared at the ceiling for hours, waiting for the sound to stop. But it never really did. Sometimes it moved to another room. Sometimes it stayed directly above me. Around 4 a.m., I finally heard it move toward the hallway upstairs. Then silence, complete silence. The next morning I barely felt human. I looked exhausted. My eyes were bloodshot, and every little sound in the apartment made me tense up. I kept telling myself there had to be a logical explanation. Maybe squatters, maybe animals trapped upstairs, maybe somebody secretly living there. Anything made more sense than what my brain was imagining. So that afternoon, I decided to check the apartment upstairs myself. The hallway on the upper floor felt colder immediately. Not freezing, just unnaturally cold compared to the rest of the building. The lights buzzed constantly overhead, and the entire hallway smelled damp, like wet wood and mold. The apartment door was at the very end of the corridor. Old, faded numbers, dust everywhere, and deep scratch marks near the bottom of the door. That was the moment I almost turned around, because something about those scratches felt wrong. Too long to be from an animal, too deep to happen accidentally, like somebody had dragged sharp nails across the wood over and over again. I remember just standing there listening, and for a second, I thought I heard movement inside. Very quiet, almost like shifting weight. I tried the handle carefully, locked. But the weird part was, the metal handle felt warm, like someone had touched it recently. That made absolutely no sense. The apartment supposedly had no power, no tenants, nothing. That evening, I ran into one of the older tenants downstairs, an elderly woman named Margaret. She'd lived in the building for decades. When I mentioned the noises upstairs, her expression changed immediately. Not confusion, recognition, like she already knew exactly what I was talking about. Then she asked me something strange. "Do you hear walking or crawling?" I didn't answer right away, because suddenly I didn't want to hear where this conversation was going. Margaret looked toward the ceiling nervously before speaking again. She told me a man used to live upstairs years ago, a heavy drinker named Daniel. Toward the end, he stopped leaving the apartment entirely. Neighbors constantly heard screaming at night, furniture moving, banging sounds, and sometimes crawling noises. People thought he had gone insane. Then one night police were called to the building. Margaret's voice dropped when she told me what happened next. When officers entered the apartment, Daniel was hiding inside the bathroom, completely hysterical. According to the police report, he kept screaming the same sentence over and over again. "It lives in the ceiling." That night, I heard the crawling again, only this time, it sounded heavier, closer somehow, like whatever was upstairs wasn't staying near the center of the room anymore. It kept moving directly above my bed, back and forth, slowly dragging itself across the floor, then stopping for several seconds at a time, almost like it was listening. I tried putting headphones on. Didn't help. I turned the TV louder. Still heard it. Eventually I realized something horrifying. The sound wasn't coming from the apartment anymore. It was inside the ceiling itself, like something was moving between the floors, directly over my head. At around 3 in the morning, everything suddenly stopped again. No movement. No creaking. Nothing. I remember sitting perfectly still in the dark, listening to my own breathing. That silence felt wrong, like the apartment itself was waiting for something. Then I noticed movement near the hallway. Very small movement. Something dark shifting near the ceiling. At first I thought my eyes were adjusting to the darkness. Then the shape moved again. Slowly. Crawling across the ceiling toward the kitchen. I couldn't fully see it. Only pieces of it whenever light from outside hit the hallway. Long arms, thin body, something wet reflecting faint light, and eyes, huge round eyes staring directly at me from the darkness. I completely froze, not because I was trying to stay quiet. My body literally stopped moving. Every instinct in my brain was screaming not to look away from it. The thing clung to the ceiling unnaturally, like gravity didn't affect it at all, and the way it moved didn't look human. Its joints bent incorrectly, Its movements were too smooth, almost insect-like. Then suddenly, it stopped moving completely, still attached to the ceiling, still staring at me, and then it slowly backed into the darkness above the hallway, like it was disappearing into the ceiling itself. A few seconds later, it was gone. I didn't sleep at all after that. The moment sunlight came through the windows, I started checking the apartment. Every room, every wall, every vent, trying to prove to myself I imagined it. Then I entered the kitchen and immediately noticed something wrong. Food was missing from the table, not moved, missing. The bread package I left open was torn apart, and greasy fingerprints covered the counter. Long fingerprints. Too long. Like human hands stretched unnaturally thin. That's when I understood something I didn't want to admit. Whatever I saw last night wasn't staying upstairs anymore. That evening, I heard crawling directly above my kitchen ceiling, and this time, something started pushing down against the ceiling from the other side. At first, it was subtle, like the ceiling was just slightly sagging. Then it became impossible to ignore. Something heavy was pressing down from above, right over my kitchen, the same place it always crawled across. I watched a small crack appear in the ceiling, then another one. Dry plaster started falling onto the floor. I backed away slowly, but the pressure above only increased, like something was preparing to come through. Then I heard it, breathing. Not from my apartment, from inside the ceiling. Slow, wet, unnatural, and it wasn't alone anymore. I realized something terrifying. It wasn't trying to get in. It was already between the floors, living there, using the ceiling like a second floor. The ceiling cracked open suddenly. A piece of plaster fell directly onto my kitchen table. And for a second, I saw it clearly. The creature's arm slipped through the opening. Long, thin, bent in the wrong direction. It touched the kitchen light, and the bulb flickered instantly. Then its head appeared, hanging upside down through the broken ceiling, looking directly at me. The eyes were even worse up close, too large, too perfectly round, completely motionless, like they weren't even blinking. I ran, straight out of the kitchen, through the hallway. I didn't grab anything. I just left. Behind me I could hear the ceiling breaking apart completely, like it was forcing its way down, into my apartment, into my space. I reached the front door, unlocked it, opened it, and just before I left, I heard it right behind me. Not upstairs anymore. Not in the ceiling. Inside the apartment. I never went back there alone. The landlord said the apartment above me was still empty, but now I hear it in every building I sleep in. Above me. Always above me. No matter where I move. And sometimes I hear it scratching directly under my bed.